Hello and welcome to an album a day, day 104. Going through my vinyl collection, an album a day. Sometimes two, sometimes three, but typically an album a day. Today I'm going back to one of my all-time favorite bands. Did a whole freaking podcast, 299 episodes about them. I'm talking, of course, about my show Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast, and the band Uriah Heep. And I went through the original 7 albums with the Everyday Rocks box set, but I also have regular copies of those vinyls as well. Some of them are in great condition. Some of them I got for a couple of bucks. I'm like, hey, it's $4. I'll grab it while I'm here. And this is one of those. It's not in the greatest shape, but the vinyl is, which is, as I always say, the most important thing to me. If I were collecting for the purposes of building a valuable collection, something that I could resell or leave to somebody or something like that, that would be one thing. But I'm really not doing that. I'm collecting the albums that I had. It's a lot of nostalgia. I mean, sure, there's value to it. And I've finally actually figured out all of the albums I have. I have 5 albums that aren't even on Discogs. So I have to work with that at some point. But then I've got to go back, and as I'm listening to all of them, just verifying the condition and all that so I can update that, figure out the actual value, because you need to know for insurance purposes and things like that. But anyway, we're talking about the first album from Uriah Heep. This came out in 1970. So you're talking about originally they were Spice, and there was one album that came out as Spice. Then Ken Hensley joined the band. They turned into Uriah Heep. This is right around the time that Deep Purple came out with In Rock, and they were actually practicing and writing their album, this album, in the same rehearsal space that Deep Purple was writing Deep Purple in Rock. So that's kind of curious, and wondered many times if one of them from one band snuck over to the other one's rehearsal space and went, what are they up to? I certainly would have been tempted. I mean, it was such an amazing time in music, but they didn't know it yet, because Uriah Heep was a new band, different from Spice, if they had known who Spice was. And then Deep Purple was a completely different band. So everything really kind of changed in 69 and 70, in that era when these albums came out, because they started to define what hard rock would be. Anyway, I'm talking about Very Heavy, Very Umble. This is the 1975 pressing of a 1970 album. I always love this album cover. I don't know. I don't know what's behind it, but it's a cool album cover just the same. This is a Mercury Terre Haute repressing. I always like that. I don't know why, but I've always liked the Mercury label. I mean, it's a cityscape. It's really nothing amazing, but I've always liked it for some reason. The jacket, so the vinyl's in excellent condition, which is, like I said, the most important part. This cover has some issues, so we'll get into that. So first we have, I don't know how well you can see it, but there's this has been dipped in water at some point, so you can tell it's bubbling, and that typically only happens from water damage. It's ripped and cracked, and really in just poor shape. What is the sleeve? This is, oh, you know what, I just realized this is another one that I have that opens vertically, the gatefold. I had that with my Deep Purple 3 album, the Tetragrammaton pressing, opens vertically, which is very, very strange. So does this. So you have this, and I guess, it makes sense, because then you've got the whole beast picture and all that. But inside, then we have, a shot of the band, which is always nice. Really interesting shading though, but I love the if you look at the back, the other album cover, the other version of it, and that is David Byron, whose face appears there on the album cover, and that's in the background. But I like that reddish coloring to it. Kind of gives it a little bit of a mystical feel. That's probably just the stage lighting. I don't know that would have been touched up for this, but I also, I mean, obviously this would have been first tour, but I don't know. So they must have maybe, done some shows or written the album, then gone out touring some of the songs while it was being produced, and then took the picture. I don't know. It could have been just completely staged too. I mean, it might not even be a real concert, but they do look like they're in action. So yeah, pretty cool. But let's talk about the songs, because the songs obviously are, the most important piece of an album. you open up with one of their most classic tracks, Gypsy. Really killer opening. And the important thing about this is how tight the band plays at the beginning of this with all the stops, but there's no metronome. They weren't recording with metronomes back then. So this is all people locked into each other, really paying attention, really focusing and being tight. I mean, it's not 100% perfect because it's human, which is even better to me. Walking in Your Shadow, killer song. My brother and I performed that in Old Colorado City. I don't remember what the event was called. It was like, it might have been Colorado Days or something. I think it was around Labor Day. I know it was right before school started. So that was an interesting gig because they were not happy with the music we were playing and kept unplugging us. Fortunately, as a drummer, I can play without an amp. Come Away Melinda. This one I absolutely love. I've heard a couple of different versions of this song. And this one, there's something really magical about the kind of the combination of the string instrument, which is a keyboard, and then we have just this beautiful haunting reverb. It's an amazing performance from David Byron. There's just something so magical that was captured on this particular recording. It is by far my favorite version of the song. Then we get into Bird of Prey. There's a couple different versions of Bird of Prey. They're performed musically very similar, but it's a different vocal. I really like them both, and I don't know which one I like better. It doesn't really matter because I like them both, and I have them both to enjoy. Next up, we have another one of my favorite classic Uriah Heep songs. This one written by my friend Paul Newton. This is Dream Mare. Man, this is just, it's got such a feeling to it that it's kind of dark, but kind of not. And I remember when my brother was working for, I think he had like an Herbalife business or something, and we had moved to Colorado Springs. He started that up, and then we were walking around the neighborhood like very, very early in the morning, putting flyers on people's doors in the neighborhood, and freezing cold outside, and I had this cassette, and I remember specifically when this song came on was like right when the sun started to crest, and it was perfect because the opening is kind of like a sunrise. So it was great, and I have that memory locked into my head. Real Turned On is a cool song. It's a good shuffle. You need a shuffle on an album. I'll Keep On Trying, another good energetic song. Wake Up, Set Your Sights. Really killer way to end the album. It's just got a great energy to it that when it ends, it just makes you go, okay, I want more of this. And then you go back to side one and you start listening to Gypsy again. And it's fairly seamless. If you were to put like a CD on repeat, going from Wake Up, Set Your Sights to Gypsy, it flows very well, as if Gypsy had come after that on the album. So it's a great full circle type thing, and song order is so important when it comes to things like that. But killer album, guys. Absolutely check it out. Very heavy, very humble. Uriah Heep, great album, and the beginning of what would become a pretty incredible band and force of nature. Obviously had a huge impact on me. Check out Uriah Heep, the Magicians podcast. I did an individual episode on every single song the band recorded, even the ones that they re-recorded. Thanks to Mike Shannon, got episodes. The live album, which I wasn't planning on covering, I covered with Dave White, and then did interviews with everybody in the current band, did interviews with a couple of the past members like Paul Newton, Ken Hensley, Peter Golby. That was a really exciting one because I had no idea that I would get that. He was kind of off the grid for a long time and then came back, and I had the pleasure of interviewing him. So lots of cool stuff. And yeah, it's out there on all places where you can get podcasts. You can also link to it on my website. Go to scotthaskin.com, check on the podcast page, and then all my podcasts are there. You go to that. Every individual episode is available for streaming. And you can also go to, like I said, Apple Music, iTunes, all those places where podcasts are available. Hope you guys have a great day. Middle of the week, heading towards tomorrow. We'll see you guys. Cheers.